So what are you working on recently? And what are your values and priorities? Well, let's chat about that today. I'm going to share with you what I've been working on and just have an intimate chat about things that I'm working on and where I'm growing, and see if it resonates for you or if it inspires you to think about where you're working and where you're growing. So I'm going to talk about 4 things that I've been working on and 4 things that I'm really prioritizing in this season. So number 1, what I'm working on is, I first titled this being less sensitive to the environment. And I'm like, I don't know if I can title it this one that, because in honesty, I'm more of a highly sensitive person. I'm very aware of the surroundings and this and that. And I don't know if I need to be less sensitive or just be more aware that I can be sensitive and know how to adjust for that. And again, what that means is if I'm in an environment that's like negative or dark, just a kind of like a low vibe, it starts to affect me after a while. I don't like it. So really just being aware that I can be affected and just kind of bubble wrapping my energy, so to say. And then also realizing that when I'm most depleted, I am most affected by my external environment. If I'm not caring for my internal environment, I'm way more sensitive to my external environment. And so just reminding myself that I need to focus on my internal scorecard. That means, am I doing what I want? Am I showing up for myself? And am I showing up in a way that I feel good about? And then just keeping on my side of the street. Like, the truth is, we can't really change anyone. People can only change if they want to change. And I really feel like I just need to give them just the love and respect to just do their journey, however that looks, and not let that bother me at all, and have a loving environment. So that's kind of what being more aware of, is being aware that I am sensitive to environments, so nourishing myself and also prioritizing, where I fit in this whole conversation of life. So that's number 1. Number 2 is creating more options and being comfortable with duality. I think our brains are naturally very black and white, and it's either this way or that way, and really just understanding that we have a lot of choices and we can actually be comfortable with some duality. So for me, how this expresses itself is I'm a realtor and I'm a life coach. And part of my brain struggles with, oh my goodness, you need to be more of one or more of the other. And right now I'm about a realtor 90% of the time and life coach and all of that 10% of the time. And rather than being so uncomfortable with that duality, just being comfortable with it. Some other things to be comfortable with is I can be comfortable with my circumstances and appreciate them. And I can also want different things and want more things, and that's okay too. So there's all sorts of dualities and things to be comfortable with. I can actually appreciate a friendship, appreciate the things that I've experienced with them, and also be comfortable not wanting to spend as much time and be okay with that. So just being comfortable with those kind of opposing dual things and being good with that. So that's my second thing, is creating more options and comfortable with some dualities, seeming dualities. The third one is to watch the stories I create. Being a creative person, and I honestly think we're all creative, we just create differently. And I'm creative in my mind as far as imagination. And that is good. And with every positive thing we have, it has a challenge that comes with it. And for me, I need to watch the stories I create. So I'm going to give you an example. I ran into an ex-boyfriend about a month ago. And as soon as I saw him, I was like, ugh, yuck, I don't even want to see him. Just had a really bad attitude. And I wasn't super impressed with myself. And sometimes it's really good to have a bad impression or a bad attitude stay away from me sort of thing. But in this case, I didn't want to have that because there was a lot of good things that came out of that. And, I could tell the story that I was thinking in my mind, the creative story was he took advantage of my kindness and I didn't like that. So of course I wouldn't have a good attitude towards him. But really when I thought about it, I'm I actually don't want to rest on that story because it's not all the way true, and it's not serving me. And in this case, I don't want to have a negative attitude towards this person. And so I just worked on my story and changed it. Instead of the automatic story, changed it to be like, I learned a ton from this, and it has totally helped me to get where I wanted to go and to meet my wonderful husband now. And so I changed that story, and then I had to laugh because I actually ran into him again, and literally I've not seen him for like 3.5 years, 4 years. And so it was funny that I had contact with him again, and I didn't have that negative vibe. It was very neutral and appreciative, and it wasn't bad at all. So it's just funny to like watch our stories and our thoughts as far as like, how it's creating our experience of people. And so for me, that's what I'm working on, is just being really aware of the stories I'm telling myself and just choosing, do I want to have that story? And does that story serve me and what I want to be feeling towards this person? And if not, doing the work to work through that. So that's the third thing. The fourth thing, and I have to laugh that this has like been a regular part of my life because it sounds very funny. But the fourth thing is just being honest with myself and accepting reality. And you're like, well, of course we're honest and accepting reality. And I have to just be honest with you that this is a struggle of mine and I'm still struggling with it. And it cracks me up. So the truth is I have to be willing to just see things for as they are, not how I want them to be, and just to accept. So that means like just accept what is. Instead of what if, just what is. And I really like Marissa Peer's book, Tell Yourself a Better Lie, because the truth is the things that we're telling ourselves are not, we're kind of lying to ourselves all the time. Like I could say, gosh, I am a horrible writer. And, I can believe that, and that's my truth. But the truth is I can just switch that as I'm getting better at writing all the time. And that is going to serve me more. And so it's just kind of funny is that we can tell our brains what to believe. And, we have to be aware of that. And so for me, I'll tell you how this played out recently. The first 8 months of this year, real estate was probably the slowest it's been in like 4 years. And I had to be honest and own that I was where I was at because of my choices. And so I just had to be honest and be like, yeah, I'm here because I've been having a great time with my husband and we've been camping a lot and having a great time. I have not been doing the open houses that I need to do. A lot of my sellers have moved and I am where I'm at because of my choices and my actions. And, just being honest with myself and then purpose, in that case, I wanted to change that and, totally transformed. But it was funny how I was living with the knowing of that, but not really being honest and addressing it. So I'm like, oh, yeah, there I'm doing it again. And I did this really well when I was in the abusive marriage that I was in because I tried not to know what I knew. And that was, it was abusive and destructive. And I just tried to kind of like slather some frosting on it and push it down and do whatever, think about the positive, do whatever I could. But I knew, like my body was screaming at me. And it's just funny because I think what I had assumed is if I know that I have to act and I have to do something, but knowing and being honest with like where things are at and the truth and owning things doesn't mean you have to do anything. And I really believe like when, in the Bible, it talks about how when you know the truth will set you free. So really starting with an honesty is super valuable. So I am still working at being honest with myself and accepting reality. Are you a chronic people pleaser? Do you overgive, overfunction, pretty kind, and you're just tired, or maybe even a little bit resentful? Or are you wondering like, wow, is this all to life? Is this how it works? Because I kind of feel like I'm going through the motions. Well, that's what the Unravel Notebook is for. It's 61 days to unravel our thinking, beliefs, and live a life intentionally as we connect closer with God, ourselves, and others, so we can be more confident and live brighter in this world. So those are the 4 things I'm working on, and now I'm telling you about my priorities this season. So my first priority is to be around big-minded, expansive thinkers. And that means I get to purposely put myself in uncomfortable situations to grow, which I love to do consciously, and honestly, it's uncomfortable. So it's just knowing that, hey, this is a priority because this is how I'm going to grow and I want to do this. So that's my one priority. The second one is just know and speak my truth and intentions. And what that means is, for a long time, I wouldn't tell people, the truth of what I was thinking. And I wouldn't tell people like what my goals were, especially because, I was in an environment for a long time that just wasn't positive and wasn't, uplifting about my goals. And so I kept them very quiet and then just would quietly work on them. And now I'm trying to put voice to that and just being like, hey, this is what I'm working on and this is what's important to me. So I have, because I'm a life coach and hypnotherapist, I have a life coach and I have a hypnotherapist. Because I'm in business, I have a business coach. And just having those honest, those conversations and speaking what I want is, and having accountability is really important to me. And so that's what I'm working on. And I find it still difficult to do. And so one thing I would say is if you're in an environment that's not encouraging your dreams and who you are, I want to say that I believe in you. Like, I think that if it's in your heart and you can dream it, you can start creating it. And so I just want you to know there's room in my mind to believe in your dreams and what you're called to do. And I'm excited for you. So number 3 is just, again, listening to my body, which I've been working on for a long time, but more listening to my soul, because, there's that spiritual side of us that can get really depleted and if we're not nurturing and caring for it. And so just for me, what that looks like is just looking at what do I need as far as to care for myself. Sometimes what that involves is like, okay, I can see that a younger version of me was, kind of injured. And so just going back to that younger version and just giving that younger version some comfort and what it needed at the time, because we're the best adults of our younger version, and it's a fabulous way to heal. We do this actually through the practice of hypnotherapy as we go back and figure out like what were the times that made us have these beliefs that aren't serving us, what we're trying to do, and we go back and we can heal those. And it's pretty cool that we have that ability. I think that's amazing. And we don't have to do that just in hypnotherapy, although that's super powerful. We can do that just anytime in our visualization. So that's what I'm doing, is just caring for my younger version and just listening to my soul and just, connecting with God and universe and being aware of like, where's my tank at? How's my soul feeling? And just checking in with not just my body, but my soul. And then the 4th thing, and I think I crack up about this, is allow my shadow self to have a seat at the table. So kind of how I envision us is we each have our parts of us, and they all have their opinions. We've got the feisty part. I've got my 2-year-old that wants to throw the tantrum, that's selfish, but gives me good information that I'm tired or I need to eat. I've got different parts at me, but I would never allow like a shadow self person into the table, because I'd be like, oh, you're wrong, you're bad, you stay out. And I've realized that I feel like we have to embrace all of us. And so I'm comfortable with having that shadow self. And I envision her as the 13-year-old, because when I was 13, and it's kind of funny what I was doing at 13. So I was 13 and I was sneaking out with my youth group, and I was partying, getting drunk, smoking, breaking into things, and had just gone skinny dipping in a pool, broke into it, and was being chased by the cops. So had that experience, and at that moment, I had an encounter with God and changed had a very clear of like, oh, wow, if I continue doing this, this is where my path leads, and just had real clarity of where I was going. I didn't like it. I had very much a lack of peace. And then I'm like, wow, I need to kind of not do that. And I actually want to choose God and choose, your ways. So that was kind of a conversion experience for me. And that 13-year-old, I've always been like, no, all your feelings and thoughts and desires don't get a seat at the table. But now, you know what? I'm the executive at the table, and I can listen to all the parts. And I find that I learn some things from each of them, because each of the parts of me have different experiences, different thoughts and feelings, and just allowing them all to have a seat at the table and hearing, a different perspective from the different aspects of me, which is, I think, interesting. So I am the executive and I get to choose, but I do give voice and comfort to the bit different parts of me. So that is what I am working on, and those are my priorities this season. So, what are you working on? What are you learning, and what are your priorities this season? I would love to hear from you. If you go to livebrighter.info, you can send me an email, and I would love to hear from you. And I do believe in whatever you do want to accomplish, what's in your heart. And again, I always think that by our connecting with God and just experiencing in universe that love and having that relationship, and then treating ourselves with love and kindness, and then giving that love to others in that order, is just how we go about living the thriving life and living brighter day by day. So have a great day. Stay tuned for our next episode.